Hello, scholars. Time for our next installment of Module 4 notes. Today we're going to take a look at 4-17, Lesson 17, Decimal and Fraction Multiplication. Got quite a big Roman numeral happening for this one. 10 plus 5 more is 15, 16, 17. So, kind of a long one. All right. Decimal fraction multiplication. Now, we're going to start with some vocabulary, and they're terms that I'm pretty sure you already know the definition to, but we're going to write them down because I want you to see how similar they are, just in case it's been a while since you've realized how similar they are. Let's start with what we have been doing for quite a while now. All of this module and the module before, we've been talking about fractions. Now, we already have defined fractions. We defined them as equal parts of a whole. And since then we've talked about arrays, we've talked about sets and regions, we've talked about all different ways to show them. Equal parts of a whole. Now I'm going to add one little tidbit here. Okay. There can be any number. There can be any number of pieces. Any number of pieces. I can take a region and break it into thirds. I can take a region and break it into elevenths. I can take a region and break it into whatever I want. However many pieces I like. Now the other part of our title today, the other thing we're going to be dealing with is decimals. That's a super mathematical term there. Okay, decimals. Now, these are also parts of a whole, and we can't think of them as equal parts. Okay, they're parts of a whole. It's a way of writing a part of a whole. The big difference here, the number of pieces must be a power of 10. Now this goes back to what we were talking about in the very beginning of the school year. When we talked about powers of 10, we talked about 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, all the way up into the millions, and we did a little bit in the billions. Powers of 10 are basically just a 1 with some number of zeros after it. Decimals are always out of a power of 10, whether that's tenths, hundredths, or for us we might go to thousandths. Okay? They're very similar. Some fractions, like 3/10ths, are very easy to think of in terms of decimals. Today we're going to look at one like that, and we're going to talk about what to do with ones that maybe don't work quite that easily. So let's take a look. For part B, we're going to start by talking about how to change a decimal into a fraction. And again, depending on the decimal, sometimes this is really easy. Number one, step one, because we know I love that. Step one, read the decimal. I know that sounds silly, but a lot of us are to the point where we just kind of look at it and understand it. No, you need to read it correctly and not as 0 point something. Read the decimal to determine the denominator. That's a lot of D's in that sentence. Read the decimal to determine the denominator. Some alliteration happening right there. Okay. If I give you, for example, this decimal, I had to catch myself right there. I wanted to say 0.05, but that doesn't help us here. We need to look at it and recognize, okay, it's over 1, 2 decimal places. So I'm thinking to myself, this should be read as 5 hundredths. It goes out to the hundredths place. So 5 hundredths. Now, at this point, I really could just write the thing. But we'll take it a piece at a time, at least for this example. We're focusing on the denominator. Hundredths means it's going to be something over 100. And yes, most of us, I think, probably already know what's going to go in that little box. Okay. For step 2, that's where we get to fill in the little box. Fill in the numerator. Fill in the numerator. Fill in the numerator and simplify if possible. There will be some times where it's not possible, but you should always check. Always check. Okay? We've seen in class sometimes we think we do something that'll prevent us from needing to bother, and no, we always have to check. Okay, so I continue thinking to myself, we know it's hundredths. How many hundredths? And this is one of those times where I assume many of you are screaming at the screen, it's 5. I know it's 5. Just write the 5. Well, there's the 5. Okay, there's the 5. Put some nice shading on there. Come on, Mr. Landry, let's get down to it. All right, 5 is the answer. So, with our original fraction, something over 100, I'm going to write that a little neater, something over 100, we will put 5 over 100. Something over 100, let's put 5 over 100. Now, like I said, getting that part, I know, pretty easy. Always check and see if you can simplify. 5 and 100 share a common factor. They share the common factor of 5. I can divide top and bottom by 5. So I will. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 100 divided by 5 is 20. Now once I have a 1 in the numerator or denominator, I'm done simplifying. I've got it as simple as it's going to go. It is in fact a unit fraction at this point. So we're good. That's it. 5 hundredths is equivalent to 1 over 20, 1/20th. If you see something that's asking you to multiply a decimal times a fraction, you can turn the decimal into a fraction and multiply the way we've been practicing. But there might be times where you want to go the other direction. Maybe you are given a fraction and you want to turn it into a decimal because you really missed decimal multiplication. I don't know. Personally, I've always been more of a fan of fraction multiplication, but to each their own. Let's see how we would change a fraction into a decimal. Now, there are two ways to do this. The first way, option 1, I know not step 1 this time, but option 1. Can the fraction be written as an equivalent fraction? We haven't had to talk about that too much lately. Equivalent fraction. Can the fraction be written as an equivalent fraction with a denominator? That was a weird looking R. Come on. Denominator. It's a little better. With a denominator that is a power of 10. Okay, let's break that down a little bit. Can the fraction, whatever fraction you're given, so for our example, I am going to give you 3/5. Can this fraction be written as an equivalent fraction? So remember, that means we are going to write it as a fraction that looks different, but is really the same amount of stuff. These will look bigger or smaller, they'll look different, but it'll be the same value overall. can I write it with a denominator that is equal to 10? Can I make the 5, in this case, into a 10 or 100 or 1,000? Why, yes, I can. I know that I can change this denominator. I can turn this into a 10 or into a 100, into 1,000. If I take 3/5 and multiply the bottom by 2, that will turn it into 10. Okay, that was nice. I always multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same value. So times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay. 6 over 10, and if we read it properly, we hear, 6/10, which goes back to what we did up above. Can we write that as a decimal? You bet we can. All of that is going to be equal to 6/10. So 3 over 5, we're rewriting it as something over 10, or over 100, or over 1,000. Go as small as you can. Check 10 first. 3 over 5 becomes 6 over 10, 6/10, and that gives us our value right here. Okay, not bad. If you can do this, if you have something over 2 or over 5, try to turn it into 10. If you have something over, 20, 25, 50, try to turn it into 100, and so on. Now, you won't always be able to do that. So let's take option number 2. Option number 2. Divide. For a lot of us, I have a feeling this will be the one you'll just jump straight to. If you're comfortable with division, you actually get to do some division with decimals again. Just remember, it should never go out more than 3 decimal places. In 5th grade, if you get something that goes out past the 1,000th place, stop. When you get older, when you're in middle school and high school, you can enjoy that all you like. But for us, you're only going to go out maybe 2 places. So this time I'm going to give you a slightly different one. 3 over 4. Now, honestly, I could turn 4 into 100 and do the whole bit, but I don't want to multiply everything by 25. So, what I'll do instead is divide. Okay. Now, hopefully we have enough room left on the paper. I'm going to start up high. If you need to go on to the back side of your page, please do. Remember, top divided by the bottom. 3 divided by 4. 4 will go into 3 no times. So 0 times 4 is 0. I don't really have to do that part. I do have to add a decimal point, and an invisible 0. And now I'll ask, how many times will 4 go into 30? Well, 4 times, I'm thinking 5 is 20. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 8 is 32. That's too big. 4 times 7 sounds good. 4 times 7 again is 28. I'll subtract that from 30, temporarily ignoring the decimal point. Go ahead and borrow. 10 minus 8 is 2. 2 minus 2 is nothing. So, all right, looking good so far. Add another invisible 0. Bring it down. 4 will go into 20. Well, we said this one already. It'll go in 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract those out, and we're all done. So 3/4, I'm going to write it over here. 3/4 is equivalent, it's the same, as 75/100ths. And again, for those of you who are liking the idea of writing equivalent fractions, you may have already recognized that. If I had multiplied 4 times 25 to get to 100, I would have multiplied 3 times 25 to get to my 75. All right, only one example of each, so that's not a lot. We will be practicing this more in class. Again, the ultimate goal is if you have a fraction times a decimal, you're going to change So they're both the same thing. You're going to turn them both into fractions or both into decimals, whatever is convenient, whatever you prefer. Then you're going to multiply to get your answer. All right, that's it for today. Any questions or comments, as always, make sure you bring them to class, and I will see you then. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.